I'm Sarah Russell.
I'm JQ Walker.
I'm Hind, and we are
The Neurodivergent Report, a research-based podcast by and for neurodivergent brains.
In each episode, we'll explore topics relating to neurodiversity and coping strategies by reviewing the literature and discussing current topics.
We will also have interview episodes where we sit down with experts in the field and listeners like you, with the hope that together we can all learn to heal in community.
However you are able to engage, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I don't know if it reached as far as where you are, but above Detroit, where I live, there was I think they were calling it the Arctic blast of just this swirl of Arctic air that was stuck above Detroit. So usually I'm fine with the winters here because I'm from Idaho and the elevation there is higher. So I'm used to snow and cold and stuff like this. But it was so cold. It was single digits, 1-2 degrees for weeks. And yesterday was our first day above freezing. It felt like it's been a month.
In actual weeks. Yeah, that's how I felt too. Totally relate. We have so much snow still because it hasn't been able to melt that people are shoveling off their roofs so it doesn't cause structural damage.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a little crafty thing?
Well, I was just thinking, I was wait, I'm jealous that I didn't sit down with a craft. Okay, wait, let me go get something.
100%. I always have knitting. Yes, take your time.
Okay.
That was extremely fast. I couldn't even find my pause button. You're awesome.
I'm knitting a pair of socks for my boyfriend. So that's what we're doing right now.
Work in progress. Nice. Socks are difficult for me because I need to have a specific kind of loom. And I don't.
Yeah, I didn't even know
But that's
that
okay.
you could do socks on a loom.
It's surprising the amount of things. Right now I'm actually working on a hat for the collective. This is actually a great natural plug. I'm going to take the time to announce that we're doing our very first hat drop. Yay! If you have yarn and you want to knit a hat and donate it for the collective, now's your chance. This is actually my second one since we announced with the board members.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is obviously a rim.
Yeah. I have this gorgeous ball of green yarn that I have my eye on, but it's definitely not going to be enough to crochet. So I'm going to have to knit it. And I'm such a slow knitter that we'll see.
You know what? I should get you a loom.
I remember we had one when I was a kid. We had a nifty knitter and my mom was obsessed with it for a while, but I don't know what happened to that. I think that my background is as an anthropologist. I'm a PhD candidate in anthropology, so my job is studying other people, but
yeah.
That's
That's really autistic of you. I mean, I don't know if you have a diagnosis or anything, but I totally wanted to be Indiana Jones and anthropologist, kind of like Jane Goodall, but for people.
Exactly. Yeah, no, Jane Goodall is also an anthropologist. She's just a biological anthropologist. R.I.P. Jane Goodall. I know. Gone but never forgotten. Truly. But yeah.
The work lives on.
I do definitely read some anthropological and sociological work, and I'm just oh, this is the most neurodivergent thing I've ever read, because it's always just giving person who's in their 60s who was never diagnosed with anything, still trying to figure out how daily interaction works,
Yeah, exactly. I just want to know why they do this behavior.
There's this really famous book by, I think it's by Irving Goffman, and it's all about performance, and it's basically discussing daily interaction in metaphor to performing on a stage. And it's so
the world's a stage.
Exactly. It's just so funny because it's Irving, honey, I think everybody else knew already.
Who's gonna tell him?
Also, it's this like wildly famous book in anthropology and sociology, and it's so popular. So I'm like, everybody else who was reading it too in these like academic circles was like, "Oh, this is revolutionary," and I'm like, I have news for you guys. Like, but I mean,
Projection.
the reason,
Actually, this is relevant because the like logical, scientific, rational man archetype came about at the exact same time as the like hysterical woman archetype, like she can't be fixed kind of thing. And it's the same people, it's just different genders.
yeah.
It really bothers me. I should write a paper on it.
No, you should. I think all the time about how I feel like if I was a man, I would be considered like a mysterious, chaotic genius, but, like, because I'm a woman, it's just not read in that way, and it sucks because, like, I would
Mhm.
be so good at being, like, a mad scientist, you know?
I've got the hair down.
But, I mean, the reason why I brought up anthropology in the first place is because you were talking about how you try to center other people, in
Mhm.
your podcast, and, like, as somebody whose job is centering other people too, like, I think that who you are and what you bring to the situation is, like, also so important for the ways that you're able to center other people and the positionality that you bring to it, so, I don't know, I feel
Mm.
like, I like to think of myself as your friend, and as your friend, I think that you should feel empowered to see, like, what your spot is in all of this, you know? Like, you're not just, like, this bystander, you're also
Right.
an agent.
Anchor my perspective. Like, I'm also a living being who is interacting with the environment and growing as a result of it, like, every single moment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and you have an
Yeah.
interesting story,
Thank you.
how could it not be?
Yeah. You definitely have an interesting story, and I think we'll eventually get there. That's interesting that I'm gonna force you to talk about yourself when your whole thing is focusing on other people and groups of people.
Yeah.
And I love that. So anyway, I'm just gonna like zoom way out and introduce the world to my very good friend, Jocie Osika. Yes, we have never met, but we are kindred spirits, soul sisters, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, basically, I'm on her board of directors for this awesome nonprofit that we're going to be focusing on today. Also, today is like my very first kind of special episode. I don't know. So, this is the podcastathon episode, very much focused on this awesome nonprofit we're raising funds for, raising awareness for. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Jocie, and for like making time in your super busy schedule because we haven't even been able to schedule a board meeting,
I
but
know.
you're here for this.
I know, and I feel like you've been doing so much organizational work. Like you were just talking about how you're so proud of yourself for planning this in advance and filming it in advance and everything. But like, it's not only this episode, it's also like this nonprofit. I started it, I had the idea almost a full year ago. It was March
Wow.
2025 that I had this idea to create a nonprofit that knits, crochets, loom, weaves, hats, and then sells them and donates the profits to other nonprofits whose causes we want to support. And, it was a really big idea and people liked it. And so I went ahead with it because I'm an ideas girly all the way. And then I said, "Shit, I actually have no idea how I can make this happen by myself." So how we met, I think, was I was just screaming for help. I was like, "Guys, I'm gonna give up if nobody."
On Facebook.
Yeah, on Facebook, and you were like, I think the first person who was like, "I won't let this idea die, like, let me help." And I was like, "Okay, somebody else cares enough to actually participate." And I think that it's taken us a while as a collective to catch our stride in our workflow. but I feel like
Mm.
with this new year and, like, the past couple of months, like you in particular have been, like, knocking out tasks and everything, like, I'm struggling to keep up. I still have to, like, read the stuff that you wrote, like, I just filled out the
I had
Wednesday
a really
form.
It's okay. I'm doing what I can when I can, and so is everybody. I think we're all kind of coming back to things slowly.
Yes.
You know, we tried to force ourselves to take a really long holiday break, and the mad scientist in me sometimes is like, "Yeah, but I don't wanna. I've got a great idea right now."
Yeah.
And so that's okay. And honestly, March of last year, I was really looking for something new too. You know, I was just launching this podcast. I had just sort of gone out on my own with my coaching organization. And I was like, what the heck am I even doing? Am I an ADHD coach still? What do I do? But what I am is a mom, and that requires so much organization. Like when I tell you tomorrow is a half day for my kids, so one of them gets picked up at like one time and the other one at another time. And then also the following day, they're off from school. And I have to have all of that in my calendar well in advance. Okay.
Yeah.
And so if I'm not super compulsive about things like my calendar because it's my lifeline, it tells me where to be and who's relying on me. What are the consequences if I'm not there kind of thing.
What do you
Yeah.
use for your
And otherwise it's done. Google Calendar because I have a Pixel, so it's easy.
Okay. Do you wanna know what a psychopath I am?
Oh my god, I've heard of everything.
No, it's like it's not that bad, but, like, one day mark my words, one day I'm gonna regret it so bad. Okay, hold on, this is my calendar. My entire life is just in this, like, bullet journal format, and
Yeah.
there is literally no backup to I have no, like,
Yeah.
digital, like, B-side to it. Every single week, I just draw out my entire schedule and my entire to-do list.
Mhm.
I don't even just use, like, a regular planner. I don't know why, but, like, I can't make myself use normal planners, and if
Yeah.
I use something digital, I forget it exists because I can't physically see it and interact with it.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And especially interesting because you're younger than me. I feel compelled to point out. Um, no, so I was an ADHD I mean, I have been an ADHD coach for the last 5 years, and, I've heard it all. And so the bullet journal is actually a really successful method for some people because it's highly customizable. I think the repetition of having to write is extremely valuable in a way that my digital calendar could never, which is why I need to touch it so often because I'm not physically like, it's different. I get it, and that really works for some people. I
Uh-huh.
think if you wanted to put, like, a return in like, in case this gets lost, please return here. You
So,
have that,
the
don't you?
very first page in it, when you open it up,
You're so
it says, "This journal is actually my life because I am dumb and do not keep a digital calendar. If found, please return to Jocie Osika with my email and phone number."
So, let's cross out dumb and write, like, old-fashioned
Old-fashioned.
or
I have a romantic heart, okay?
whimsical. Yeah, totally.
You're so
I
you're
don't
so
know, kinesthetic. Yeah, like, you're really grounded to that jour
terrified by modern society.
Listen, our doorbells are agents of the state now, so I don't think it's unreasonable to keep a paper planner, babe.
You don't? Okay, I don't either. I
No,
live in an apartment building, but I just saw
yeah.
that.
I live in a condo, but they are around. I live in a super white area, so, like, some people do have them. Terrible.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, I
Anyway,
was in
not surprising at all to people who lived through September 11th and had
yeah.
rational thinking brain.
Yeah. I live in Detroit, which is very not white, and
Yes.
it is very segregated, so there are very white areas, but the city
Yeah.
itself is not very white. And it also, a lesser known fact is that it's right next to Dearborn, which is the highest per capita density of Arab Americans in the United States and possibly outside of the Middle East in general.
Wow.
So there's a really, 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 really strong and vibrant Arab American community. And I just saw that
I love
Dearborn,
that.
the town that has that really high Arab American population, is the first city to be rolling out like a 24/7 like live drone surveillance thing or something that is, like, run by the police. I don't like, I feel like I'm butchering this.
Wow.
It's like, I saw it, like, "Oh, this is revolutionary, like, new technology in Dearborn," but it was, like, definitely surveillance state, like, dystopian stuff.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who knows a bit of American history might know that Central Park was built on, like a vibrant Black community. They just sort of took the land and built a
Yes.
park on it. So that's wild. But we've been doing that for a long time. So keep your eyes on Dearborn, Michigan, did you say?
Yeah. Yeah, Dearborn, Mi
Yikes. Cool. All right. So let's snap back to the collective. We kind of know why you created it, but I think I want to be in your brain when the straw snapped your back, Like what was the moment that you were like, "Oh,
yeah. I think that it was actually a lot more positive, or at least the way that I remember it is a lot more positive than you would expect, because
good.
in my daily work, I'm around so much, like, just depressing stuff.
Mm,
I research the child welfare system, and I live in a very, poor city that has a lot of inequality and a lot of pain and history
mhm.
attached to it. So a lot of my life can feel like just slogging through the sludge of systemic issues. And
Yeah.
I am not one thing that I've realized about myself as I've gotten older is I'm not very good at sustaining traditional like routes of activism, and that can make me feel quite guilty. I can go to a couple of protests a year, but I never feel like I'm the person who has the time or energy to be, boots on the ground, like yelling at every single protest. And I always felt like that's what I was supposed to be doing. And my gosh, sorry, my cat is being crazy.
That's okay. If we get a butt in the screen, that's also fine.
She has some paper that she's playing with, but um yeah, so I just was feeling very generally discouraged, I think, last winter. And then I was learning a little
Yes.
about craftivism, just, on the side, seeing stuff here and there. And there was that like one day in the spring where the sun comes out and you all of a sudden get like your first like hit of vitamin D that you had in months. And I was walking to my office because I only live like a mile away. So I was like, let me walk, it's so nice out. And like the sun was hitting my face. And like, I cannot make this up. I was just like, I should start a nonprofit. Like that was just, it was just full delusion, Like, because I was thinking about, like, past craftivism movements, and I was like, "It's so weird that I'm not seeing more craftivism right now," And I think that
Yeah.
right around the same time, a lot of people had the same idea, and I have seen a really big influx in craftivism, but I think that most of it isn't organized in the way that the collective is attempting to do, so I still think that that's, like, really cool that people like you have been able to encourage me to, like, keep going with that notion of organizing, because
Mhm.
ultimately, this does feel so much more sustainable for me and like my capacity to advocate and protest and contribute and all of that stuff in ways that I haven't been able to before. And I know that if I feel that way, there must be other people who feel that way too. So I think,
For so many reasons,
yeah,
like physical reasons, emotional reasons, like you got kids, maybe you're a convicted felon and you can't get caught out.
I don't know who,
um
I don't know who that would be,
yeah,
but
I mean, I don't know why I just thought of that example. Like no, but so I also love craftivism as a concept, and I agree. Like there's not a lot of organizations focused specifically on craftivism. I think the people who are starting to raise awareness now are like, yarn shops, crochet, like influencers and stuff like that. And so we've actually been reaching out to them on the down low and just not telling you about it because like most of the time they just don't respond, but that's fine. Sometimes they do and they join the Facebook group.
I mean, see,
And that's freaking awesome.
that's my favorite thing is like cold emails. I was just trying to explain this to somebody yesterday. Is like cold emails sound so scary, but in reality, like either they're not gonna respond at all and you forget that you even
Because
sent
they
it.
never see it.
Yeah.
Usually they'll never see it.
Yeah. Or they reply and they're like, wow, this is amazing. And like, then you feel really good about
Yeah,
yourself.
but like emotions are hard to hold. And so we just often don't take risks. And so I think I'm just helping you hold some of the uncertainty around this nonprofit, and we're just going to keep going because can't become an expert if you don't keep going.
Yeah, and I mean, another thing that, like, you came in at a very good time is I was trying to recruit any sort of members, and some people were, like,
Mhm.
really mean to me about it, and I was devastated because I saw it as, like, this is an accessible way for me to exact some sort of change. I saw something. I'm sure it's, like, a really famous quote that somebody's gonna be like, "Wow, you don't know who said that," but somebody at some point famously said, that every good revolution needs its symbols and its images, and that's, like, the importance of crafting, a lot of the time uh,
Yeah.
in movements, and I think that through encountering stuff like that, I really had a frame shift where I realized, like, "Oh, this actually can be important." I think that was so used to the narrative of, like, your activism needs to not be too performative, it has to fit within this specific box, but I think that activism is necessarily performative a lot of the time. I think that we
Yeah,
need.
I mean, if you're not acting, if you're not doing any action.
Exactly. And you know what? Irving Goffman, the guy that I was talking about before, who was saying that,
Mhm.
like, life is a stage, he would have something to say about that.
Mhm. So would William Shakespeare.
Exactly. So, like, I
Mhm.
mean, I think people were so mean to me because they thought that it was, like, basically a
I'm so glad that I missed that, and they're lucky that I missed.
no, and, like, that's where I found Taylor too, I think. Shout out Taylor, our treasurer. At that same time that people were being so mean to me, and Taylor is just, like, such a, like, light of an individual,
Like,
like, they are just so sweet, and, like, having you guys, I was like, "Okay, like, there are, like, good, nice people who are intelligent and will call me on stuff if I need to be called on it, but they're not telling me, like, 'Oh, you're a horrible person for wanting to crochet.'"
yeah, yeah,
It's funny because I also remember, so that day what had happened was I made a
amazing.
post in a Facebook group inviting people to the collective and telling them about my idea, and that's where a lot of people joined from, but also a lot of people were being, like, really mean to me about it. Like, people were, like, calling for me to be, like, blocked from the group. People were, like, messaging me individually and, like, being mean to me, and I'm a very sensitive person, so I woke up and I read all of that and like I cried. I cried because I have very
Mm,
easy access to my tears. And then I had to
yeah.
like move on with my day because I had a college class to teach. I'm a
To
professor.
teach.
Yes,
Yeah.
I teach anthropology classes at the university that I'm getting my PhD at. So I had to
Right.
go and teach an introduction to anthropology class. And do you know what the topic for the lecture ended up being that day that I completely forgot I was even teaching? The topic was social movements. And it was about how we need people to organize and create these movements even like when it's unpopular or people don't necessarily see the vision and how the value is in doing something over being paralyzed by all of these social constraints
Over
on
nothing.
what exactly the most productive thing would be. I think it's a lot better to be
Mhm.
a little bit productive than to just be paralyzed by all of the judgment and actually not do anything at all.
Yes. Yes. And honestly, this is kind of reminding me of my whole okay, so my whole life philosophy revolves around like 3 Mister Rogers quotes. Okay.
They're all Mr. Rogers?
Yeah. So the first one is that feelings are manageable and mentionable. And that's what this podcast is about, by the way. So the second one is I like you just the way you are. You know that one?
Yeah.
And then the last one is everyone is big enough to do something. And it's big enough because it's a kids show, so
Yeah.
everyone is able enough to do something. And so that is my anchor in craftivism and sort of why I think this nonprofit is such an important idea because everyone can do something. And it starts with making something or just sitting around and listening. We're able to do something.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I do think
yeah.
that when people discount something like craftivism, it really does go hand in hand with how historically the labors that women do and the things that are coded as feminine have been so
Yeah.
like devalued because I think
Hmm.
that the thing that's really cool about something like knitting and crocheting for craftivism is it takes so damn long. Like I've been working on this sock for a month.
Yeah.
I think that people overlook that it's not just this like women's work gets devalued a lot of the time, including things like knitting and crocheting. And
That's
I
right.
think that some of the beauty and value in craftivism is the amount of care and effort that goes into it. Because realistically, it takes me much, much longer to create a hat than it does to create a sign, which isn't to say that the sign isn't valuable. However, I think that creating a hat sends a very different and specific message, especially as
Mm,
somebody gets to wear it on their head and it keeps them warm and it's soft and like the messaging is just so special to me with something like craftivism. And so I think that it's easy for people to devalue craftivism hand in hand with the devaluing of craft in general, but I see the value.
that's right. That's absolutely where we were. I was sort of spiraling in my head about the concept of like the digital HOA and just people policing other people. Like, there is no perfect way to be, And so if you just take steps in the direction that you can, that's good enough. It's better than nothing. So, yeah, fuck those people.
I've known that term of like digital HOA before. That's so funny.
So I can't take credit. Obviously, stole it from, I think, I'm trying to think of the first place I saw it, and I can't. So I'm gonna tell you the last place I saw it, and there was this girl called, her name is Kiki Bryant, and she calls herself the Uppity Negress Redux, and she's just a presence on social media, and I mean that so lovingly, like, she's an experience, and yeah, I mean, Black women in particular have a long experience being policed by other people, you know, "Oh, that you gotta mind your tone, like, that's too much emotion for this situation," you know, etc. And so women also are very familiar with being policed and told like, "Oh, no, you know, your efforts don't matter. You're not meaningfully contributing." And some people have also gotten really intense lately and just want particular actions to be taken. And so, like, anything that's not that is a waste of time and a waste of effort. And that's one opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel like I don't know, it's so hard to contend with because I feel like I can't necessarily disagree that, like, I think somebody who is directly lobbying could be making a bigger impact than, me making a hat. However, that doesn't mean that an impact isn't being made. And I think that what
Mhm.
I've gotten a lot more comfortable with as a person is like, if I can touch one life, then I've made a difference and it was worth it, you know?
Yeah. I'm trying to get comfortable with just that small of an influence. I think I'm really that big picture person, like, let's start a nonprofit, let's have a podcast. So I saw that in you and I was like, yes, I'm gonna help her. She needs help.
I think something that's really easy to overlook is that the little contributions are the big contributions. And what I mean
Mm,
by that is when I'm in the classroom teaching my students, I don't feel like I'm changing the world. I feel like I just have a little bit of anthropology that it's my job that I get paid, 20
yeah.
cents practically to, transfuse into people's heads. But then my students tell me about how what I taught them that felt like just another day at the office to me changed their life. And then they went home and they talked about it around the dinner table with their family. And then their family members maybe went and talked to other people about it. So I think that these really tiny relational things that we do ripple in ways that you and I never see, but they do matter.
That's so true. And I'm just thinking about my professors that like changed my life without really knowing it either. um, and that's beautiful, I guess. Learning how to knit and like learning how knots form together has helped me conceptually understand people as individuals, but always as a group.
Yeah, like in metaphor, you mean? Is that how you think of it?
I don't know. I don't know. I think that we don't have scientific evidence that we are the Borg, you know, like
No.
collective consciousness kind of thing. But that doesn't mean I don't feel like it might be kind of true. Like, I don't know. I feel like we're all kind of connected in some ways. And like we can feel each other's pain and things like that.
Mhm.
Evolutionary we evolved to be groups. And so I just think that there's probably some neat features of that that we've forgotten
Yeah.
or devalued over time.
I mean, that is one thing that I tell my students all the time is like, humans don't survive on our own. Like, we're an inherently social species. We can't
Yes.
do this whole life thing by ourselves, even if you're a total.
There's really damaging research they did on babies
Yeah,
to
yeah.
prove it.
And like, even if you are an adult who's a complete recluse, like, I really highly doubt that you grow the fibers that you make the fabric that you make your clothes out of, and that
Yes.
farm all of your own food and cook it all yourself, and all of these things. Like, we are just so inherently interdependent as a
Yeah.
species, and we're so very social as a species. And further with what you were saying, it might be kind of affirming. I wish I could remember a more specific example, but I have been told as an anthropologist that there are societies where the smallest unit of being is not considered the individual like we have. There are cultures that don't really have a concept of the individual in the same way that our culture does. Rather, the
Yeah.
smallest unit of being and like meaningful life in society would be like the family or something like that.
That is a beautiful idea. Anyway, so I'm curious if you definitely said that you've always been kind of an ideas person. Obviously, anthropology is a special interest for you. I mean, I usually ask people point blank about their diagnosis experience or like maybe particular challenges that they might have faced just to help orient the listeners to your particular struggles, intersectionality and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm comfortable talking about
Okay.
everything that goes on up here. So I have never received any sort of diagnosis of neurodivergency.
Okay.
Um, but I do come from a family that has a pretty long lineage of anxiety and depression problems. And I would
Yeah.
say that it has very much colored the way that I've developed as a person. Not to get too far into it,
Yeah.
but I kind of like became sentient as a person and like gained consciousness at a time when my grandpa had a suicide attempt that was extremely gnarly.
Wow.
And then there was a lot of it was kind of a domino effect with other family members where it made their depression and
Yeah.
anxiety boil over, and so there were hospitalizations and medications and psychiatrists and therapists, and, like, I remember being really small and my mom having to talk to me about how we were going to visit my grandpa in the psych ward and trying to help me understand what that meant.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really got it, especially because I didn't really totally remember a time before grandpa lived there. I kind of remembered it, but not really. But, he's passed now. He lived to be very old, died of old age, all of that stuff. But I
Did
mean,
he ever live to be happy about it?
I do think that he found a good amount of happiness in his older age. So he did a lot of different therapies. He had a lot of continued health issues from his attempt
Uh,
and the physical damage
uh-huh.
that it did to him, but he did end up living independently again, and he did find joy in, like, his grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren that he got to meet, and he had this really big phase. So, like, he was old as hell, right? So, he had never lived on his own his whole life. He went from living with his family to having a wife and had never really cooked for
Yeah.
himself. And he had this phase where he was really, really into making waffles. And it was so just charming, like, the vigor that he would approach wanting to, like, teach me and my sister, his grandchildren, about
Yeah.
making waffles. It's like, "Grandpa, we've been doing this at continental breakfasts, like, our whole lives," you know? But, like, for him, as a man who, lived his entire life being taken care of by women until his wife died, like, it was so, like,
Oh,
revolutionary.
wow.
Moments like that were where I saw a lot of joy in him, but, yeah, I would say that a lot of um, my way of being in the world and the mental health struggles that I live with and that I overcome, both, like, in the past and daily and continuously, I think that those really stem partially from that long lineage that my family has of these
Mhm.
problems, and I think that it also has to do with coming into my consciousness in that context where everybody had so many needs. So I
Yeah.
was so very, very sensitive to it, and I remain so sensitive today because of that. And I do
Mhm.
think that that's what draws me to things like craftivism is that sensitivity and just having a soft heart. You know, sometimes when you're a soft-hearted person, you don't necessarily have the capability to sustain really hardcore efforts, but your talent lies
I
elsewhere.
don't have a nervous system that can fight.
I don't either. My nervous
No.
system.
People come up to me in the parking lot asking for money, and I just freeze. I'm like, "Am I about to die?" And then I run away once I realize that I can't just stand there stupid. But, yeah, that's another, like, core feature of this podcast is just reinforcing the idea that, we're all just nervous systems and we're all hardwired to prioritize safety. Yeah, that looks really funny sometimes in behavior, and we try to pathologize it. We try to explain it with science, and labels and things like that. Um, but yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your family's struggles.
I mean, when it's
Yeah,
all
I
said
think
and
a
I feel like we do pretty well, you know?
yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's just a challenge to be a child who has needs in an environment where all of the grown-ups are chaotic and also have their own emotional needs that they are prioritizing over your developmental or safety needs or whatever.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that a lot of people did really close rank to support my grandpa during that time, as well as my grandma, his wife.
Mhm.
It You know, then it took a really large toll on my mom, who's their youngest daughter, so then my dad had to really pick up a lot of responsibility to support her.
The cascading.
Yeah, in a really interesting way that I think just really sensitized me to people's needs.
Mm.
It is interesting how that stuff just, like, kind of stays with you for life, you know?
Mhm.
Because it is something
Mhm.
that I love about myself is that I'm, like, a sensitive and thoughtful person, and I don't think that I would necessarily have those traits in so much strength if I hadn't grown up in that specific moment in history in my family tree.
Mhm. It taught you a sort of resourcefulness, or resilience, some might say. That's awesome. Okay. So the world's on fire. How and yeah, no, so I mean, I know it feels really cold right now, but like metaphorically, the world is on fire and like you can only breathe and count to 10 so many times. It's totally fine to show up to work crying, but how like, what are some things that you do to prevent that from happening? Like, what are some coping strategies that you might use before you start crashing out?
Well, first and
Well,
foremost, I take my sertraline every day.
bless.
Exactly. Second, I have to be sure to pet my little critters daily. I have 2 cats.
Co-regulation! 2
Yes, and
cats?
yes, and you know what's so beautiful is I think that I have perhaps the most anxious cat in the world. She is a little old lady, and she only has 3 legs, so she is just extremely worried all the time. For example, something that recently made her extremely anxious was I was telling you it was really dry in my apartment, and
Yeah.
I was petting her, and she was all staticky from how dry it was, and she was, like, terrified by the noises that it was making.
Uh-huh.
She recently started Prozac and she's doing much better, but I think that we help each other not only in that I love that feeling of just, like, having a little critter to, like, cuddle and pet and everything, but also, like 'cause I'm like, I'll be damned if this little, like, three-legged old lady who's terrified of the sound of static is being braver than me on a daily basis, you know? Like, if she can hop her way to the litter box despite my other cat breathing on her, then I can surely do what I need to do in my day.
Yeah, because you at least have logical thought. You have the capabilities to move beyond just the initial emotion or reaction or impulse or instinct. I say all of this because, like, we use these words as if they're super distinct, and usually they're not.
Yeah, and
Usually they're not.
I think that
So, yeah. So you make sure that you are chemically supported. You are emotionally supported through regulation with your babies, your fur babies.
yes,
Um,
I would say that physical activity has also always been a really, really prominent part of my system. I think that I tend to walk the line of knowing that physical activity really helps me, and having the structure that that a plan for physical activity offers me is also really helpful for me. But
Mhm.
I also am such a like gung ho and dedicated person that historically I have learned a lot of lessons from being a little bit overzealous with my physical pursuits in athletics and stuff like that. Um, so I think that the way that
Oh.
that helps me cope is kind of twofold because it's the stress release and the health and the routine and all of that, but it's also a context that's really not life or death and it's not that deep where sometimes I have to like look at myself in the mirror and be like, you need to take better care of yourself and make better decisions. And I think that it's nice to have an area of your life that it's not going to destroy anything if you let yourself make mistakes and learn in that corner. And then you can carry that into other parts of your life.
mhm. Sounds like a play a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm really big with that.
I really crave like a sense of accomplishment too as a person. I love to have like I'm a very like marking my little tasks off of my list driven person.
Yes.
So I think that one thing about play and crafting, something that I think is offered by both is that sense of accomplishment with, I finished the little task and now I get to move on with my day, Like I ran the mile, check. I made a hat, check. Those are
Mhm.
little low stakes things that I know I can always accomplish if I can get myself in the mental space to do them. And I think that that feels really, really good for me being in a world where so often there's nothing we can do about the things that are bothering us.
Yes. There's only so much healthy dissociation that you can do before it stops being healthy. So that therapy tool stopped being helpful back in like 2020, to be totally honest. Mm, we're moving on.
You're like, anyway.
Um, I love this. Okay, so Josie, if
Yeah.
people want to I'm sorry, if people want to get involved with the collective, what should they do?
Yes. So I would say there are three things that we need right now. The first thing that we need is money. So we do have a way for you to donate easily on our website. I think it's just cvntcollective.org. Hopefully, I know my own website domain. There's a beautiful, tempting donate button on there, and anything at all is welcome to help us stay afloat with just the small costs of things like keeping our website up and keeping our bank
Mhm.
account open so that we can focus on serving the community instead of just staying afloat. So yes, donations are the first way that people can support us. Second way people can support us is as a crafter. So if you know how to knit or crochet, we would love for you to join our community. Our primary community is currently on Facebook. We are looking into ways to expand off of the platform. However, that is our most vibrant area of community currently. Our page is
Yeah.
called the am I allowed to say it? Okay, like bleep it out if you need to, but it's called the Cunt Collective,
No.
but spelled with a V instead of a U. And all you have to do is answer the questions. And if you align with our values as a group, we will gladly let you in and welcome you into the community. You can find the link to join there also on our website. And then
It's
lastly,
also going to be in the show notes for this
yeah,
episode.
and in the show notes because Sarah is a fantastic podcast host.
Thank you.
And the third thing that we need is attention. Okay. I need people to consider me to be Tinkerbell. I will die if I don't get attention because ultimately we
Please
need
clap
people.
for us. We're
I know,
trying so hard.
because we need people to sell our hats to, right?
Yeah.
Having all of these crafters is incredible, but ultimately our goal is to sell the hats so that through the hats we can build community and raise funds to donate to other nonprofits so that we can also have that more direct impact even when we are people who can't necessarily afford to donate directly, right? So if you are wanting to support us in that third way, please, 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 in the wise words of Sabrina Carpenter, follow us on all of our socials. We are active on Instagram, Blue Sky, and occasionally Facebook. If you are not a social media person, you can also join our mailing list via our website.
Yes, and the social handle is at cvnt.collective. So you can find us that way as well. Amazing. So it has been great talking to Jocie today. It's not very often that I get to record with actual friends. Yay! And I have the 4th edition of Podcastathon to thank for that. So, as I alluded to in the beginning, we are joining thousands of podcasts to highlight a specific charity that's near and dear to our hearts. Obviously, the Cunt Collective, Craftivism, is very near and dear to my heart. And so, yeah, it's been great getting to just talk about that instead of specifically just the ways in which we are othered.
Imagine that.
So, yeah, imagine that. Yeah, there are other things to discuss, ways in which we can contribute. So, I just wanted to, yeah, stop and say thank you to Podcastathon for that. Yeah, there's so many other podcast episodes that are also a part of this initiative. And so I'm going to make sure that if people want to go look for those, they can find them somehow without needing to know the specific spelling of the website. And yeah, that's that. So thank you so much for being here, Jocie.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was fun. I liked getting to craft with you.
You know, maybe actually this is a really good time also to plug the fact that we have weekly craft meetups as part of our community. I'm desperately trying to get that started, but so far it's just me.
Yeah, if you're feeling jealous of me sitting here with my sock getting to talk to Sarah, I have great news for you. We do I believe, weekly craft along meeting for our
Totally
community.
free.
Yeah, you show up, you bring your craft, you hang out, and you build community. So another
hmm
reason to join.
You know what? I'm thinking of calling it a craft or clean.
Love it. Love it.
'Cause yeah, I think sometimes we just wanna sit around and craft, but then other times we've got much more chaotic energy and we need to be, like, moving around much more. Anyway, I am going to okay, so yeah, so definitely do that if you're interested. My very last question is novel, and it's from a card deck called,
I was wondering what
the
you were shuffling.
Delve deck. Joy Edition.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll just see what we get. I just need to not look because they're all not face. Alrighty. Ooh, okay. What is your favorite thing on the internet?
Two girls, one cup. No, just kidding. I'm kidding.
No.
Why was
You're the worst.
that I thought?
Says so important.
Okay, my actual favorite thing on the internet. Wait, this is actually really easy. My favorite thing on the internet is the Cunt Collective.
We worked so hard on it. Yeah,
And my
totally.
second favorite thing on the internet is the ND report.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice.
And my third
What else
favorite
do
thing
we
on the
have?
internet is Two Girls, One Cup. Just kidding. I've actually never seen it. So
I've never seen it either, but I know what you're talking about. Anyway, I have a better question for you.
okay.
What's the best vacation spot or city you've ever visited? Yeah,
Okay.
this is better.
So one answer that I'm partial to is my hometown, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. A lot of our economy is based on tourism. So it's a very beautiful place to visit. It's great for a outdoorsy reset vacation. My
What's the
favorite place,
best season there?
I would definitely say summer. Summer is the way to
Okay.
go. Tons of hiking, swimming, water sports, stuff like that. It's
Amazing.
absolutely gorgeous. Lots of mountains. If you like snow sports, you can do that too. But me personally, I'm scared of tearing an ACL. So,
Yeah.
and then I think my favorite place that I personally have visited, I really found it life changing when I was able to visit Jamaica as like a preteen. I think that there's a lot of places
Why?
around the world that we write off as not vacationy, and that we as Americans think are too sketchy or scary. And I very much remember when we were going to go to Jamaica, people being like, "Oh, that's so dangerous," and, blah, blah, blah. And we weren't really
Mhm.
staying at like a super, super big, like resort or anything like that either. But I think that the value that I got as a young person seeing people who lived in these sort of haphazard shelters that they had put together in the wakes of hurricanes and um you know these these buildings that looked like nobody could possibly live in them, and a little kid pokes their head out and starts talking to you, and seeing the little puppies that live on the street and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I think that it was so informative to me as a person and who I became. And obviously the question was vacation. It's gorgeous there, it's relaxing, the food is amazing, the culture is so rich.
Yes.
Like, everything about it was perfect, not only for vacation, but also for learning. So I think that that's my answer outside of Coeur d'Alene.
I love that your parents took you to Jamaica. I mean, did you guys stay on like a resort?
Yes. So
Yeah. And people still were like, oh, you're going to Jamaica. Like, that is so racist.
yeah, yeah, it's funny. I
What?
I had a huge, like, Rasta phase after
Sure.
going to Jamaica because obviously
I mean, so does every white girl. Yeah, for
like, I got
sure.
my hair braided, I got one of the, like, hats and stuff, and I would wear it to school all the time, and, like, I was listening to reggae.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Like, I was cultured.
Is that
No,
why you moved to Detroit? Because you missed Jamaica?
yes. No, I don't know if I've met any Jamaicans here. I feel like I meet a lot of Africans here, a lot of African Americans, obviously, but there's also a lot of African immigrants here. I mean, I feel like I have to have met some Jamaicans here and just like not known it. But
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. I see a lot more like
Okay.
Nigerian, Kenyan.
Gosh. Bridgeport, there. in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is where I'm from, there's a nice sized Jamaican population. And so I just kind of assumed. And also you were talking about like dilapidated, and like I think of dilapidated when I think of Detroit, like no offense. I mean, it's also where I come from. Like I come from the dilapidated buildings. I was like, surely that should be abandoned.
It's definitely hit or miss in Detroit. It's like you go over one block
We were talking
and
about that.
the buildings are like half burnt down. And then the next block, it's like the nicest house you've ever seen.
Oh my God. I heard some scummy people are using AI to like change how their listings look.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. God, what a night.
So anyway, like it's technology is so wonderful. Anyway, we're spiraling again. I loved getting to know you some more.
Co-hug. It's like we're hugging each other.
Yes, that's one of my nice grounding activities. So awesome. I'm gonna press stop.
Okay.
Thanks for being here. If you want to connect with the Neurodivergent Report, you can find us at ND Report Pod on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, Substack, etc.
If you're looking to support the show, the best thing you can do is subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Please do that.
And hey, if you want to check out more about us, visit our website at ndreportpod.com. And you can also go there if you want to be a guest contributor on the show.
Until next time, be well, do good.
Bye.